So now if you're coming from another 3D software, I want to briefly touch on master materials. So this is one of those things that exists because we are working inside of a game engine, not a render engine. So things are set up in a slightly different way. So instead of every single material having its own designated material graph, like you might be used to in Maya with Hypershade or Blender with their shading networks, whenever you right click in the content browser and hit material here, we're creating a new master material. So type in mm underscore, we'll just call this test material. And this is what every material looks like. So by default, every material comes in as an opaque surface and it has the default lit shading model. Most objects exist with these settings, and anything that you'd see in Megascans is going to come in with these settings. And now we can see what makes up a material. So we have our base color, we'd have our roughness, we have our normal. We can also add emissive, so we can make this material emit light. We could turn it into a metallic object, and objects are either metallic or they aren't. There's no half metallic objects. So master materials are essentially templates. So what we're looking at here, we can see it's MI underscore Japanese statue, and that stands for material instance. And what's going on here is we're basically getting a template from the parent material. Inside of our master material, we can define these different properties that we want to expose in our material instances that we know we want to change on the fly with our material instance. So if we look inside here, this is the shading network, and this is what's going on under the hood. The Megascans materials are deceptively simple. If you double click on our material function here, you'll see that this is the shading network where we're adjusting the base color or the albedo, the metallic, the specular, the roughness, and the normals. So this is where the math is going on. Like normal strength. And this normal strength is what we're adjusting in our material instances. But again, these master materials are the templates so that we can swap out the textures, we can change the parameters, and customize everything on the fly. Before moving on here, I've had a couple people that have been a little bit confused about why we even have this in the first place. And some people are just wondering, why don't we just adjust everything inside of our material editor here? Because that's what a lot of people are used to. So I just have a really simple analogy to explain why we need to work in this master material to material instance relationship, especially when working inside of a game engine. So let's say we're at a high school and everyone needs to get their yearbook photo taken. So we have a teacher that needs to print out yearbook flyers for the freshmen, for the sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Now, what's the fastest way to print all of these flyers out? If you were just going to hit Control P and you printed one copy at a time, you hit Control P, go through the settings, hit print, one copy. Control P, go through the settings, hit print, two copies, etc. And we just do that one by one by one. You can imagine how long that would take for 400 students. So what's faster, doing that, or do we tell the computer to print 100 copies at a single time? This is the idea of instancing. So we know we're going to use the same thing over and over and over and over again. And depending on how you give a computer instructions, it's going to be faster or slower. And when we create instances and use these predefined templates, like a yearbook flyer is just a single template, and we tell it we want to use 100 of these pre-existing templates versus printing individual copies, it's going to be able to process it a lot faster. But now let's say we need different information depending on the grade. So the freshmen need a different flyer saying we need to meet at the gym at 10 a.m. The juniors need to find out that they need to meet there at 2 p.m. on the following day. And the seniors have completely different instructions. So we need to build our template, our yearbook flyer, in a way that we can just swap out and change the specific things that we want to, like the headline, the color of the headline, and what time we need to show up. So what this would look like is we're going to make our master material template, and then in each instance, we can give it individual instructions. Like we want one to have less roughness, we want one where the albedo is darker, and one we're going to change drastically. We're just going to actually swap out all the different texture samples, but the base instructions are going to be exactly the same. So when we look at our material graph for our master materials, we have predefined instructions, And whenever you see the term parameter, these are what we change in our material instance. So by the end of this course, we'll dive in deeper and we'll actually build a master material ourselves and show you exactly what are the key things that you need to know to build master materials that are flexible and allow you to make dynamic changes on the fly. But just so we can get started and dive into creating our scene, we're going to start just by using the Quixel asset material instances because they're pretty good at getting us up and running with adjusting PBR materials on the fly. So for this material instance, we have our albedo tint, our albedo controls. We can change our roughness, our max and min roughness. We can change our specular, which is the overall amount of reflection. If we set this to 0, it'll remove any reflection from our scene. And if we set it to 1, it'll double the amount of reflectivity we have. There's a couple exceptions to this, but 99% of the time, you're going to keep this base specular set to 0.5 unless for a specific creative reason you want to change it. Otherwise, you'll want to change the roughness before you change the specular. Like we said, we have the normal strength, and then below here are our texture maps. So we can swap these out for any other texture in our project.